Hi everyone, in this video we are going to create data and domain layer for our Auth module. So here you can see we have this Auth module, and inside this Auth module we will create one more module and it is data. So we will name it data and it is inside features auth data, and I will also change the package name. So it is auth.data, and we also need to add minitails app. So it is minitails app.auth.data, and I forget to change the type. It is a Java or Kotlin library. Again, the package name is the same and the library name is features auth data. So here you can see we have this data module inside our auth module, and I will change this view to project view so that I can get the Gradle files inside the folder only. So we have features auth data, and inside this data we have this build.gradle.kts. Now we don't want this Java block because it is already defined. We just want some dependencies. So for dependencies, I want network because inside my data layer, I will make the network calls. I also need serialization and I need this inject annotation. Inside the module, I cannot use Hilt because it is a Kotlin Java module. It is not an Android module. So how I will provide the dependencies is I will provide the dependencies from my app module, but I need this inject annotation. And for the inject annotation, I have added this JavaX library. I hope you got the point. Now I need one more thing here. I need the serialization plugin. So let's add it here, and that's it. Now sync the project. Now inside data module, I can delete this class that is created by default. And now I will create a new class and I will call this class AuthRepository. So let's create a new, not Java, but Kotlin class, and I will name it AuthRepository. And actually I will create an interface, not a class. So inside this AuthRepository, I will have two functions, one for login and one for sign up. So let's create the function suspend fun login, and I will pass a user login request that I need to create, and I will get network result from this function. Now I need to create this user login request. So let's create, I will create new Kotlin class file, user login request. It is a data class. And when the user logs in, user will provide email that is a string and password that is also a string. So this is my user login request. Now I need the response. So if you go to network result, I can get network result of type T. And in case of login, I need to define that type. So what I will do is I will define a wrapper for any type of response first. So in my API, how I am getting the data, I'll show you. But first, let's create a class, and I will name this class as response. And I think I should create this class inside the network module. So inside this module, I will create a new Kotlin file class. I will name it response. So let's create a file. And how I arranged my API responses. In any of my API response, I get an object that is a JSON object, and then I get data, and this data will contain the data specific to the API call. So I will always have this data inside my API response, and I will have a message that is nullable. So if there is an error, I will pass message. If there is not, I will not pass message. Or in case there is a data, I can also pass message. So it depends on the API, but the structure remains the same. So that is why I will define a response, and it is a serializable. So I will write serializable, and it is data class response of type T. And here we will get data of type T and message of type nullable string, and the default value is null. So we have the response. Now let's go back to auth repository, and the auth repository will return network result of type response. So when the user logs in and we get a success, we have this response. And for this response, I will define a data class. So inside this data package, let's define a new Kotlin class file. I will name it user API model, and this is the user API model for this JSON response. So let's go back to auth repository, and here we can write user API model. So when we will call this function login, we will get network result of type response of type user API model. And now let's define the implementation for this auth repository. So I will select this icon here. I will select implement interface, and I will define auth repository IMPL. So here we have to implement the login function. And I will write an inject annotation here. So first I will get the request handler because we need this instance to make network request. So we have inject and then constructor, and inside constructor I will get private val request handler. Let's import the inject, and you can see we got this icon here, and it is showing from where we are getting this request handler. So if you click here, you go to this function, and this function has this icon here. If you click, we come here. That means we are getting this request handler from here, and it is providing request handler here. So it is only one place, that is why we are directly getting here. But if you consume request handler at multiple places, when you click here, you will get all those places. For now, we have it at only one place. So we have the request handler, and now with the help of request handler, we can perform login. So what we can do is we can write request handler dot post, and to this function we need to provide URL path segments. And for the path segment, we can pass the path segments of our API, and you already know what is our API. It is after the base URL, auth, and then login. So this is the first parameter, and the next parameter that we have to pass is the body. So the body is here. We already have the request in this function. So we just called post. We passed the API endpoint and the request body, and we can simply return the result. So the login function is ready. And if you want to test it, again, you can use the same scratch file. I will leave it to you. But for now, let's define a domain layer for this auth module. So again, I will create one more layer. Now this domain layer is optional. We can directly call login here. And you may feel that we are creating this domain layer uselessly. And yes, right now it is not important, but I just want to show you how things work. And then you can choose what you want to pick, what you don't want to pick. So I am just telling you the way how it works. And that's why I'm creating the domain layer. And again, we will create Java or Kotlin library, and it is features auth domain. We need to change the package name, and always remember that we have to change this package name. So it is dev.bilalkhan minitails app.auth.domain. And I just realized that we were using minitails as the package name and not minitails app. And we did that mistake, so make sure you don't do it. Right now I am changing this package name here. It will work, it's not a problem, but it is just not consistent. So I will refactor that. When you will download the source code, you will get it. And for now, I am changing the package name here. So it is minitails.auth.domain. Let's finish. So this is the domain module. And let's go to build.gradle file. We have to configure this file first. I will delete the suppress line first. And here also, we need to define some dependencies and we need to remove this block. So for dependencies, first thing I want is the data module. So we have features, actually projects.features.auth.data. And then I also need the javax inject. So we have libs javax.inject, and we also need network module here. So projects network. So we need these three dependencies here. Let's sync the project, and inside the main package of this module, I will again delete this my class, and here we will create login use case. So let's create our login use case. It is a class, and inside this class we will get repository. So again, I can use inject and then constructor, and in the constructor we will pass private val repository, and it is auth repository. Now right now it is not showing the icon here. That means it is not getting the repository because we have not defined the auth data module yet. But we will do it first. Let's complete the function. So how I'm going to do is I will create a use case, and inside the use case we will have only one public function, and we will name this public function as invoke. So we will create suspend fun invoke, and make sure you have to follow this rule for all the use cases throughout the project. Only if you're creating a domain layer. If you don't have a domain layer, no problem. You can skip it. So when we invoke this use case, we will pass email and password, and it will return the user. So we also need to create one more class user where we will map the user from the API call. So I will simply create a new class and I will name it user. And again, it is a data class. And when we get the user, we get all these attributes with the user that we can use to display in the UI, or we can do other things if you want. So we have this login use case, and this use case will return user. And how to get the user? So what we will do is we will create a request. So we have val request, and we will create user login request. We will pass email and password. And after this, we will call the login function from the repository. So we have val result equals to repository dot login, and we will pass the request. Now we can check what we got in the result. We can add remaining branches. So when we make the call to login, we get either error or success. Now here we have to return a user that is not null. But when we call login, we can either get success or error. And that is why we will define one more class to wrap our result. So what I will do is I will define one more class and I will name it resource. So it will be a sealed class where we have either error or success. In case of success, we will get the value. In case of error, we will get the error. So we also need to define the error, and for error, I will define an enum, that is resource error. So either it is unauthorized, service unavailable, or unknown. Now let's go back to login use case, and here I need to write val result here. So when we have error, I can return resource error, and when we have success, we can return resource success. Now let's start with the error case. So when we have error, we need to convert this result to resource error. And to do this, I will define one more function, and I will use an extension function here. So for now, I am defining it inside this file only. So we have network result error to resource error. Now here inside this block, so when we have a network error, we can simply return result.toResourceError, and I can add a return here before when. So here we are returning resource error, and in case of success, we have to return the success result. So here we can write resource.success, and here we have to pass the user, and we need to pass this user, not the user API model. And because we have the user API model inside this result, we have to map that user API model to this user. But first, let's change the return type. It is resource of type user. So in case of success, we will map the result data. So we have result.result.data. And you can see it is user API model. So if we write data here, we get user API model. And we have to convert this user API model to user. Now to map this data, that is user API model, to our user instance, we will create a mapper. And because we are going to use mapper in many places in our project, I will create a standard. And to make this standard, I am going to use mapper interface that I will create right now. For now, I am creating this mapper inside this module only, but later I will extract this mapper and I will put it inside a utils module. So let's create a mapper, and it will map F to T. And inside this mapper, we will have only one function, and it will map from F and it will return T. Now let's create a user mapper, and it is a class, and it will inherit mapper, and it will map from user API model to user like this. Now let's override the function, and here we will map user API model to user. Very simple, right? Now let's go back to login use case, and here we will map this data to user. And to do this, we also need mapper. So we have mapper, and the type is user mapper. So here, instead of passing the user API model, we can use mapper.map, and we can pass the data. Now our use case is ready that we can use. But first, we have to get repository and mapper. And to do this, I will define a new module inside my apps module, and I will name it Auth Module. This time I will install this module inside view model component. So we have install in view model component, because I'm going to use these modules inside view model only. And that's why I have used view model component for install in annotation. And I also need to annotate it with module annotation, and our module is ready. Now this module will provide auth repository. So we have provides and fun provide auth repository. Here we will get the implementation, and we will return auth repository. Now we are getting this error, that is unresolved reference auth repository IMPL, because we need to add the dependency on this module. So let's go to build.gradle file of app, and here we will add implementation, projects, features, auth, data. And we will also add domain, because our app module will know about all the other modules. So let's sync it now. Now let's go to Auth Module and import the classes. Now you can see we have the icons. We are getting this dependency from here because it is a constructor injection, and it is providing the auth repository to our login use case. The same way we will get user mapper. So for user mapper, we can simply use inject and constructor. Because this class do not have any dependency, Hilt can provide it directly. with the help of this inject annotation. So now you can see we are getting repository and mapper. And now we can use this login use case in our view model. So I think that's all for this video. I hope you found this video helpful and learned something. In case you have any problem, confusion or question, you can leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. This is Bilal Khan now signing off.